Guess what? Everything we've done, we're shutting off.
I'm dreaming, oh, I believe in this dream I've been dreaming, oh, I'm dreaming, oh, I believe in this dream I've been dreaming, oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have our very close friend and special guest, the man who puts the mark in marketing, the GR in growth.
The raw in awesome.
Is there a raw in awesome?
I
was trying to think.
Struck.
Well, mark and marketing works so well. Growth, you have the Dre GR at the end, so it's the GR.
The
Dre. The GR growth. The growth.
Dre.
Anyway, okay, Mark. Mark is here to blow up my business, to take the awesome brand that I have and turn it into a household name. What do we got this month, Mark? What are we working on?
My goodness, let's update everyone on what's been happening with Facebook. So I don't know. How much into the weeds do you want to get, my friend, my guy?
What are we even doing on Facebook? What are we doing? What's the plan?
What are we even doing on Facebook? You want to talk about the past? Or you want to talk about the future?
Talk about just quick, where are we at? What are we doing? Just it's a little bit of context and then.
Perfect. So when Evan launched his book campaign, for past viewers, they'll know that we did a 14-day launch with going to his warm audience, meaning people who already know him, subscribers, followers, people who watch his videos. He did a big email blitz as well. We ran that all the way through until beginning of April. Then we started looking at, when we spoke last, we were really looking at going after new cold audiences. So Evan is connected to, Dean Graziosi, Lewis Howes, Jay Shetty, Brendan, so many people that, Ed Milet, so many people that have been nice enough to support you in your book, in the launch of this with photos, with reading, with all kinds of great stuff, with awesome quotes. So we started with Brendan Burchard's, did I say that right? Burchard's audience.
Burchard, yeah.
On Facebook, he has a little over 5 million followers. When you narrow that down to America and Canada, it comes down to about like 1.2 million people. So we really started by focusing on, we have video of him, we have photos of him, we have quotes of him, going after his audiences and connecting them to you. We ran a few small tests, and then we ran a really big test, a really expensive test. And the news was good. It was promising, but it wasn't as good as it needs to be. So earlier this week, we were able to jump on a call with a real expert in this field, someone who spends $1 million a month on Facebook advertising. And he gave us lots of really next level tips that I was just watching the video back again today, and I was like, oh man, so good. So where we are with now is, guess what? Everything we've done, we're shutting off. We've already tightened up some audiences, but basically we're shutting that off, and we have a plan for a new campaign. There you go. Does that catch us all up?
When does that launch? When does a new campaign launch?
Well, I have the structure all here. I need to write the creative. So here is what we're launching. I don't want to get us too much into the weeds, but when you're advertising on Facebook, Evan, as we've come to know, that there are cold campaigns and then there's retargeting campaigns. So we had our campaign, what we called warm people who know you, and then we can retarget to them. We have cold people who don't know you, and then we can retarget to them. So what we've done is we've set up in excruciating detail every step of the campaign setup and then the different creatives. So here's the plan. New campaign for Brendan's audience. It's a test campaign that'll last 7 days with a $500 budget. It's a lifetime budget. Ads will be running from 8 a.m. to midnight because we know that typically we sell during those periods, but we don't really sell during the middle of the night. It'll be focused on conversions, meaning that people purchase. There is no frequency cap on something like this. Our average cart size on the cold campaign has gone up, Evan, actually. So we added some new videos, some new proof points. We've added a bunch of stuff, and now we're up a few dollars, which means we have a higher cost of acquisition. So we have a $22 cost of acquisition. And so we'll set up a new campaign for this. Our audience will be only Brendan's followers who are men in US and Canada. The tip we got back from the Facebook expert was, even though we were selling to men and women cost about twice as much to sell to as men. So Brendan's audience have tons of women. So we thought, well, surely, he has so many women who follow him, this is the way to go, but it was costing twice as much. So the new campaign will only focus on men, even though it's a much smaller group in Canada and the US. Our ad set will basically be focusing on mobile only, and we're going to go after all devices. The lifetime budget's $500, as I said. We have, in his past campaigns, the video of him outperformed everything else. So we're going to do 3 different creatives of the video, all changing the primary text in the headline based off of their advice to make things more social, to make things more hooky, to use a quote from Brendan. We'll run that for the 7 days, and then we'll analyze the results based on gender. This is now more kind of KPI, standard operating procedure because we already did gender, but age, interest, there's only one interest in this case. Platform, we're going to be running on Facebook and Instagram, so we'll be able to tighten in more. And then we did all devices, so we'll be able to look at Apple versus Android versus other people.
You're missing an E from interest.
Yeah, there's no spell check on this, and I banged this out.
I have an emotional connection to the letter E.
Do you?
So, yeah.
Because of Evan? Let's see. Interest. Is that better? Hold on. Interest. Is that how you spell it? No, there's still another E. Interest? I don't even know how to spell interest.
Keep going.
Is that it?
This is great. No, keep going.
Interest?
It's all good.
Interesty?
Wow. Let's just move on.
Interest. Is that it? Is that better?
There we go.
Interest. I have to go back to grade 3 where I was illiterate, and they'd say, just sound it out, Mark. Interest. Great. Basically, we leave the current campaign, we duplicate it, and then we can make changes to the audience as we need to. And then after 14 days, if it's holding up, we'll start to introduce new challenger creative. So this all seems pretty standard, but there's a lot of detail and nuance in here that we've learned that we want to apply to your account. Now, on the cold retargeting side, so we are going to run, I know that our friend told us not to use Ed. It doesn't make any sense to use Ed Milet. People don't know him. I'm going to be honest with you. Ed is selling every day. Ed is selling books for us. So even though most of the people who are hitting the cold campaign are coming from Brendan's audience, men are the ones who are buying. Men are the ones who are buying, and for whatever reason they like Ed Milet. So we are going to create a retargeting campaign. It's going to run for 3 days with $100 per day. $100 per day area, focusing on reach. We're going to hit people with a frequency of 3 times per day over 3 days. We're going to try and get a 2 to 3 times return on advertising spend. And basically we'll be targeting people who have hit the landing page but did not purchase in the past 180 days, which is everyone who hit the page and didn't purchase, focusing solely on mobile, focusing solely on Apple. And the primary one for this will be, I have to update these. These are going to be basically all of Ed's videos reading. Okay. So we're also going to be running another cold remarketing campaign focusing on you, Evan. Mm-hmm. So all the same details, all the same audience, all the same things. The main difference here is we're going to have your landing page video, that long form 10-minute video explaining stuff. We're going to caption it, and we'll relaunch that again. We have the social proof video that we did 3 weeks ago. We created a new video, Evan, of you talking about the book. And we had all of these people, footage of people and video of people getting the book, and they're loving it. It did not do well on YouTube, but we're going to put it into the mix in Facebook. Okay. And then your best performing ad was you holding the book with your smiling face beside it. So, okay. So these creatives will be in this campaign, but this campaign is against this campaign. And then the last one will be a social proof campaign, where all we do is all the same things, but all we're doing is using social proof. So we have Jay and Lewis photo of you. We have Dean and Friends, we've called it, which is a Dean carousel. It starts with Dean, and then it has a whole bunch of social proof people, your fans who bought the book, people who love the book, and then Lewis reading will be the next one. Then on our warm audience, so we have this huge warm audience. We generated, I don't know what it is right now, 8,600 people, I think, have hit the landing page on the warm side that we haven't been advertising to for a few weeks.
Warm means they are already my followers from...
Your followers, your 2 million subs, your 190,000 people on Instagram, your followers on Facebook.
Okay.
Ran a big campaign for a long time. People hit the landing page but didn't purchase. I believe there's something like 8,600 people Facebook can identify as people who hit the page but didn't purchase. So we are basically going to run one campaign, and this is just focusing on you. So the Evan social proof video, Lewis reading, Brendan reading, and Jay and Lewis. So I guess it's not just on you. It's you and friends.
Okay.
So that's the plan. This is all steeped in the new learning that we have. This is all ready to be set up. As you can see, that primary text headline and descriptions haven't been written. This is what's waiting on. I need to focus just a few hours on writing all of this content, and then my team will be able to launch it.
Okay.
That's the master plan.
Very exciting.
Does it all seem clear? Not too much in the weeds?
It's pretty in the weeds, but I have a little more context so I know what's happening. So the goal for people watching was, we did our first book launch. It went only to my audience. I did a bunch of emails and social media, but then we also ran some ad campaigns against it. And now it's going beyond, right? It's going to what we call a cold audience, which is people who may not be, they may know of me, they may have seen a video, but they're not following me or they're not heavily engaged with my stuff. And now we're trying to market to them. So for people who are watching who they may not have, like they may tap out of their warm audience very quickly if they don't have any kind of following. The cold audience is more
like
of me. Well, the cold audience is then more of the strategy of like, hey, here's how do you start building a brand? How do you start getting people to know you?
Your warm audience is your low hanging fruit, where obviously, if people are fans of you, if they like you, if they've purchased from you before, if they follow you, then it makes so much sense to go after them. Not necessarily first, but sure first, because ideally they would be lower cost to advertise to anyway. They would be lower cost to sell to. You should be at better returns. And we did see that, the average cart value, in your warm audience is like $42 to $45. In the cold audience, it's somewhere around 35 to 37. So, when you blow that up to scale, those differences kind of reflect to these people love you. These other audiences are the people who don't know you. But even though you have 2 million plus people who follow you and subscribe to your channel and know who you are, there's millions of other people out there we want to get in front of. So it's good to go after the low hanging fruit, but the real scale comes from being able to crack the code on how to sell predictably at scale at a cost that you can afford to those cold people who don't know you.
So we're launching it. Today's a Friday when we're recording this. We're launching it when?
As soon as I write all that stuff for you. So over the weekend. Over the weekend. I told Alex that we would launch it. He was ready to launch stuff. And I was like, dude, I got to write the stuff first. So over the weekend, we will be launching everything.
Okay. And then when do we start looking at the numbers to say, hey, this is working, this isn't working?
Yeah. So all the remarketing campaigns we're planning on running on 3-day tests. And the new cold campaign we're running on a 7-day window. So we looked at, should we have daily spend? When you set up a campaign with daily spend, if you have $20, it tries to use up the $20 and then it shuts off. If it's $10,000, it'll use up to $10,000 if it can, and then it'll shut itself off. But with Facebook, we weren't able to gate the time of day. And something that's kind of weird we found is we would be watching through the day who's seeing your ads and who's buying. And, around 9 or 10, 11 p.m., I would get a report from my team that would say, Mark, the books have sold amazing. Our cost of acquisition is great, meaning the cost to actually get a sale is in line. Everything's great. And then I would wake up at 5 a.m. the next morning and check everything, and our numbers would be off. Because in the middle of the night, Facebook is still serving ads to a smaller group of people, but they're still serving ads and no one's buying. And so through the day, we'd have great numbers. And then at night, it would tank our overall performance. So we're going to run a 7-day campaign with not daily spend, but just trickle out that spend over the 7 days, and then time gate things so that way the ads are only showing when we've seen people buy in the past.
So everything you said sounds super smart.
Okay. Will it work?
Well, I mean, and we don't know, obviously. I mean, it in theory it should, from all the tests and everything else we've done. So what is in that first campaign, you said we're trying to hit an average cart size of, or not just cost of acquisition of $22.
$22 now. Yep. 22 US dollars.
And is that across every single campaign? That's basically break even for us. And if we can get a customer at $22, then that breaks even for the cost of the whole campaign?
On everything cold, $22 on across every campaign would break even.
Yeah. And the warm
we're switching on the warm, it's higher. The warm, it's $27. But
Okay.
We're switching our metric for remarketing away from cost of acquisition or retargeting to return on advertising spend. And that's because at the end of the month, I would love to be able to say, let's average everything out. We spent $5,000. We sold this much. Our total costs totally in line. Like it was $21 to sell a book. Cost us $21 to sell a book at scale. That's what I would like to get to. But we're going to use a 2 to 3 time return on advertising spend as our metric for remarketing, because we're moving those campaigns away from conversions to just reach. And so, if it costs us $20 to get $40 back, then that would be a 2-time return advertising spend. That would fall in line with our cost of acquisition kind of goals. So anything below 2 times return on advertising spend isn't great on these campaigns. Anything above means that that our cost of acquisition is actually coming down or our cart value is going up. So slightly different way to look at it, but is something that is the difference between the 2 different campaigns.
So, I mean, just for people watching, what I basically look at it at the end of the month, how much should we spend and how much should we make?
That's what every business owner should look at.
Pretty much that's what I know.
Made this. Are we ahead? Are we behind? How much?
Our goal is to break even off of the book. We're not making money off the book. The goal is to break even on the book. I don't want to lose a ton of money in the book. But every month I basically just look at, okay, how much should we spend on Facebook and how much should we spend on YouTube? Here's our costs and how much did we sell? And do those match up?
YouTube's really interesting because we've whittled it down and down and down and down and down. And it's still doing well. Like we can't, because we're only going after our warm audience on YouTube. And we've whittled it down to like a single campaign with a single ad that is just predictably working. The last time I checked in the numbers earlier this week, they were great, but it's not high volume. Like we're selling 2 a day, 3 a day, right? But it's predictably selling. And so we're very hesitant to just start to jack up the budgets because we haven't seen, when we've moved up budgets, we haven't seen that just suddenly start to double or triple the amount of people who are buying. And yeah, as you were saying, you're very focused on, I spent this, I got this back. When you divide those numbers out, it tells you how much it cost you to get a sale. And really, for most business people, this is the best way to look at it. I run a business where a client is worth a lot of money to me over the lifetime. If I can keep a client for 3 or 4 years, I have clients who spend 6 figures plus every year. And so if I can keep someone for 4 years, then they may spend like $1 million with me. So I should be willing to spend what, $20 or $30 or $40,000 to onboard $1 million client. But other clients will only spend, $10,000 with me, and I don't want to spend $20,000 to bring on a $10,000 client. So most business owners aren't really comfortable actually looking at how much it costs to bring on a client. They get really cheap. They get really nervous. But if you actually run the numbers, it can be expensive, and you shouldn't base this on emotion. You should say, I'm getting this much revenue in. It's costing me this much to bring it off. How much is it? And then what are my margins that I'm looking to maintain if you are looking to earn profit off of that?
So we've got this campaign is launching, in 3 days, we'll have our first set of data. The next week we'll have even more data to see what's working, what's not, and all that.
Mhm.
By this time next month, so for people kind of tuning in along the ride as we go, where do we hope to be? Like, what's our goal to be the next time Mark and I are on camera? Because we chat, almost every day.
We do.
On
I mean,
different things.
Yeah, we talk every day basically.
So where do we want to be by next month? Just kind of bigger picture, stepping above the fray here. Mid-June, what do we want to be looking at?
That's not even a question I had considered, because when I was, it's funny because when I was recapping where we were a month ago, I was like, oh my goodness, we've done so much in a month, like just to catch people up to everything that's happened. So, a month from now, my expectations would be that, we've certainly right-sized the cold audience, that retargeting is working predictably, and we figured out a way to scale this. So, while it's great to be able to sell, 10, 12, 15 copies a day, I want to be selling 30, 40, 50 copies a day. I don't know if we're going to be there in a month or not, but my expectation would be that everything that we've walked through, we've been able to replicate 2 or 3 iterations of, and that things are working.
What you described on YouTube as, hey, we're working with our warm audience. We know how to consistently sell a couple books.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't figured out how to scale it up yet, but we know how to do it at this level.
Mm-hmm.
That is like, can we get to that on the retargeting on our Facebook side?
That even though the volume might be small, it's predictable. It's that it's predictable and just working.
Yeah, both warm and cold, and that the warm audience is going to keep going. We keep getting people interacting with our stuff. We're still sending them stuff.
I could be overly confident based on the conversation we had on Wednesday with our friend, but the changes that he suggested are now so obvious to me that I'm and again, maybe I'm overconfident, maybe I'm bullish, but I'm just such a believer. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, cool. We're going to make these changes and it's going to work. So, gosh, how crushing will it be if we make all of these changes and we still find it to be as unpredictable as it is now? But I can't help but think, Evan, I can't help but think that we go ahead and we make these changes and the retargeting based off of, moving from conversions to reach, based off of us changing our headlines the way we're planning. All of the ads that I'm suggesting that we use in this are the ones that have worked the best in the past. So by tightening up our audiences, by tightening up our devices, by tightening up the time of day, like all of these things simply should make it better. No?
That's an ideal goal, right? I think to what he said of having an 80-20, and that 80% of what he's doing is working and generating predictable, sales. And then the other 20 is spent on testing new things, and you're losing money on the 20, but you're making more money. Overall, you're a break even, but you're at a loss in the 20, and that small profit from the 80 helps fund it, right? So to start getting small profits on some things, right? Like the YouTube, if we start getting some small profits to our warm audience, can we, invest some of that back into experiments, right?
For sure. And that's why our goal is a 2 to 3 time return advertising spend on retargeting, as opposed to focusing on cost of acquisition. If we're able to get a 3 time return on advertising spend, so on the cold side, it costs $22 to make a sale. That would be the goal. That means we're putting out $22 and we're getting $66 back. That is well above what we've been doing on the cold side, and that's certainly that 80% that's working, right? That will certainly fund testing, because that is essentially driving our cost of acquisition down to like $8 or something, if you think about the ratios there.
Right.
So
and the goal, so with that kind of margin, that seems incredibly high compared to what we've been doing. And I don't know, even industry standards.
It does. So here's the thing on retargeting, like we have another client where our retargeting is getting 9.5 times return on advertising spend.
I guess that's true, because it's retargeting. They've already seen the message. They've already clicked on it. It makes sense that they would convert at a higher
Yeah,
like,
we have another client where we were selling to where retargeting was 14 times return on advertising spend.
Right.
So like even when I was working with my team and I said, guys, like let's switch to return on advertising spend, and we did the math, and I was like, I think we should aim for 2 to 3 times. Everyone's like, that's it? It seems so low. But when you break down the math, you're like, yeah, like it's actually, it's both potentially conservative, and at the same time, most of our campaigns are running at a 0.7, right? Because we've been blending cold strategies with retargeting strategies. And the greatest piece of insight we got was just like, no, like don't take your cold advertising metrics and bring them over to retargeting, separate them, do them a little bit more carefully. And that was, again, seems obvious now that I'm looking at it, but I can't wait to implement.
Cool. And then again, the idea of the quote unquote profits from the retargeting doesn't hit the bank account. It hits new tests. Like it goes back into testing new cold audiences, new creative,
new interests, new regions. And I mean, listen, you'll find something that works until it stops working, right? You'll start to use up all of the people, in that interest or in that audience. I mean, there are things that we can do that even off of Facebook, there are things you can do with programmatic buying on all these third-party platforms that you tie your programmatic buy. So if you wanted to advertise an article on, say, like Huffington Post, right? You would buy some space. It would go on Huffington Post, like, you need to find your purpose. And someone would click that article. And when they click that article, you can actually tie your Facebook pixel to that. And then you could retarget the book to people that way. Like, there are things you can do on platform, off platform. It can get very complicated. And you need budget to do all those tests.
Sounds very complicated. It sounds very smart. I'm grateful to have my friend, Mark Jager,
who can sell it and then has to rely on a team to deliver.
Who puts the mark in marketing and the GUR in growth. And hopefully this time next month.
In awesome.
Hopefully by this time next month, for our next update, we'll have some big wins to share with you guys.
What I can guarantee you this time next month, you will be 40. Happy birthday, Evan.
I'll have spent more money, and hopefully we'll have some amazing results.
Yes.
Awesome. I'm excited. Well, we've learned some, and we're going to implement, and we'll keep you guys posted. Thank you, Mark. If you want to see the last update with Mark Jager, where he pushed my face in and gave me some insights, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and we'll see you there.